Hey folks, this is Tracy Lawrence for Grant Family Planning, and this is my makeup class because we did not have an opportunity to capture the recording of the class while it was happening at Bergen Community College. So, in order to make up for that, I thought I would go ahead and redo the presentation, so at least you guys will have an understanding of what to expect from this course. And a couple of things I think are important. Well, first of all, I'm going to make sure my phone is silenced. All right. And I wanted to let you know that as you watch this recording, if you have questions, you can post them on the Facebook page, okay, and we will address them. And that's one of the nice things that does work. If you are signed up for the Get Classy Facebook page, then you can go ahead and post questions, and we will be able to answer them in future webinars. So that's a really nice thing. And if this is not work, if the Facebook Live thing is not going to work, and it appears it's not, what I can change up. This is a different way of showing the webcast, and what I will do is I will post a link to this webcast and see if this works any better for us at next week's class, so that I want to find a way of making this work, because I think it's important for people to be able to see what's going on live while it happens, and to also be able to ask questions and participate and be interactive. So I want to make this content as valuable for you as possible, and to make sure that this is a valuable use of your time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to the slide presentation. And here we go. All right, so the name of this course is Team Building for Successful Retirement and Beyond. And I'm sure you're wondering, why on earth would anybody need a team unless they play sports? Well, I'm here to tell you that in order to navigate through the system that we currently have in place, it takes a team in order to successfully get through it all. So first, let me introduce you to my why, my parents, Herb and Roz. Love them dearly, and they're both gone now. They both succumbed to dementia. In this first picture over here, that when my folks were in their 50s, they were living la vida loca, and they were having a really good time. This was before my father actually went to semi-retirement, but he started making some money. Right about 5 minutes after I left home. I graduated from college in 1978, and I moved in with my boyfriend. And then, we were always broke, and I woke up one day and I, went over to go visit my parents, and my father's driving around in a town car, and I'm like, huh? When did that happen? So he was in the bar business, and he managed to make a nice living for himself after many years of not doing so. So, and they didn't really talk about their finances with me very much. And, I really didn't want to know. As far as I was concerned, I was just glad they were having a good time, and I was really pleased about it. And when they bought their place in South Jersey, I was really happy for them. My dad had a place with a pool, and he was able to get into boating. And then they bought the place down in Florida, and they were crazy about that apartment. It had a spectacular view, and they had friends, and they had a social life, and it was great. And I was very happy for them. And I was close to my folks. I was particularly close to my dad, and I used to talk to him on the phone a lot. And I always thought that, everything was great. And he made it sound like everything was great. But in this photograph taken in 2003, this was at my nephew's bar mitzvah. My father had just been diagnosed with vascular dementia. Actually, he was misdiagnosed, but he was diagnosed with dementia. That he had. They said he had Pick's disease. He did not, but it turned out that he did have vascular dementia, in addition to a number of other lifestyle induced illnesses. He had cardiovascular disease. He had double bypass in 1984. He stopped smoking at that point. He curtailed the drinking, and he still ate, what he wanted, and he didn't exercise a whole lot. But at least he cut out the smoking, and he cut back on the drinking, and he had a reasonably good interval there between 83 and 2003. But the thing was that he was hiding his illness, and I had no idea how sick he was, and that was sad. It was distressing. And when I went to see him in Florida and saw what kind of condition he was in, it really came as a shock, because he did a really marvelous job of concealing his illness while he was going through it, until he couldn't anymore. And he got very, very sick, and it really impacted his memory. His short-term memory just disintegrated. And I brought my parents north to come live with me and my husband in northern New Jersey, and we took him to doctors in New York, and they pretty much confirmed what the doctors in Florida had told us, that he had a lot of things wrong with him. And my father was miserable. He was no longer the person he valued being. So vascular dementia is a particularly cruel type of cognitive decline, because the victim often has these periods of lucidity where they know what's going on. And my father had a front row seat to his own demise. So it was terrible, and it was really rough to watch. So when my father said that he didn't want anything done to preserve his life, and he wanted to, he really did not want to live, my brother and I supported that decision. And within a year, he was gone. And then I was caregiving my mom for initially long distance. She wanted to stay in Florida, and she was able to take care of herself pretty well for a while. And then roundabout, this picture was taken in 2009. That's when she started needing more help from us. She needed to have gallbladder surgery, and I helped her with that. She went back to Florida. I hired caregivers to help her while she was on her own in Florida, to help extend her independence. And but eventually things were not working out, and it became clear that she couldn't live by herself any longer. Her doctor told her she couldn't live by herself any longer, and we brought her to live with us. And she went through a number of different residences. She probably lived in 15 different places in the 5 years that I cared for her, from assisted living to group homes and memory care and rehabs and hospitals and psychiatric hospitals. And she had become a geriatric delinquent at one point, where she was threatening people with knives. It wasn't pretty. But in 2015, April 2015, on her 64th wedding anniversary, my mother crossed over to be with my dad. So it's quite a story, and I'll tell you more about that at another time. But what I learned when I was taking care of my parents proved to be invaluable. And while my mother was still on hospice, in September of 2014, I made the decision to take the knowledge that I had acquired in caregiving my parents and help people learn how difficult a system we are confronted with and how to deal with it, so that when their time comes, when they are confronted with the illness of a loved one or with their own illness, they'll know what to do, and there will be advocates in place and resources in place to make sure that they receive the care that they want and deserve. So, yeah, new this semester, Facebook Live. Unfortunately, so far, the Facebook Live part of it is not exactly working, but I will do everything in my power to try and correct the situation. And let's see if we can get it going. If not, we'll do the webinar jam version of the proceedings. And what I'll do is I will provide a link to Webinar Jam webinars through the Facebook Live interface. And that way, everybody will be able to, anybody who wants to watch will still be able to watch. It just won't be on the Facebook page per se. But you will be able to watch. You will be able to participate. You will be able to see you'll be able to see the presentations, and you know, I will share the replays for the recordings with you guys as well. So so don't despair. You know, there are workarounds. You know, we try stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work. We switch up and we try something else. Adapt. That's what we do. And you know, for those of you who are interested, it might be interesting for you to know that your professor here is also a published author. My book, Dementia Sucks, is coming out in May 2018 from Post Hill Press. The full name of the publication is Dementia Sucks, A Caregiver's Journey with Lessons Learned, by yours truly. Yes, I have a master's degree. And it's all about my journey with my mom and the things that I learned. And it will serve as a, well, first of all, it's a really good story, if I do say so myself. It's well told. And there's a lot of love and a lot of really funny stuff that happens. There's also a lot of heartache. I'll tell you that much. And you will learn a lot from reading the book. I provide you with guidance and ideas for being able to cope with being the caregiver to someone with dementia. Okay, so during the class, some of the students in the class shared with me their desire to know more about estate planning. And one of my students also asked a really great question about spending down for RMDs. Now, this is kind of a complex topic, and I hope we'll get to it in future classes, and I'll get you some information. But here's what you need to know. If you have a retirement plan, a traditional 401k, or an IRA, with significant assets in it, and you don't necessarily want to spend that money, okay, or you don't really need the money, you still need to do something about it. And here's why. When you turn 70 and a half, that's 70 years old plus 6 months, the IRS is going to insist that you take required minimum distributions. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that the money that you put in those retirement accounts was taken out pre-tax, so the government didn't get taxed then. And the money in the account was allowed to grow tax deferred. So now you have this pile of money sitting in these accounts, and Uncle Sam says, all right, we've waited as long as we're going to wait. Now you've got a choice. You can either not take the money and give up 50% of it, because that's the penalty. Yes, 50%. Or you can take what they call required minimum distributions. They will tell you how much money you have to start taking out on a regular basis and pay taxes on it. All right. Now, why is that problematic? Well, there may be a time earlier in your retirement or earlier in your life when the tax ramifications of taking that money as income would be less severe. Or you could start siphoning the money off and living a little bit better, or using that money for things that you were, thinking you might have liked to have helped out one of your kids or grandkids with. So the take home here is that before you hit the age of 70 and a half, you want to sit down with a professional and determine whether it might not be a smart thing to start spending the money in your retirement accounts and paying taxes on that money, okay, before you hit 70 and a half. Because if you're forced to take the money and you're told how much, it could have negative ramifications on your tax rate. And it can also change how much you're going to be charged for your Medicare. The premiums that you pay for Medicare are tied to what your income is. Okay, so if you are taking RMDs, required minimum distributions, from your IRA or 401k, and it's driving up your tax rate, it's also driving up how much you will have to pay in Medicare premiums, and you can't get around that stuff. So it's a good idea to investigate that sooner than later. And most of the folks in the class did say that the topics in the syllabus were of great interest to them, and that was pretty much why they were there. So one woman who is shy and doesn't want to be on camera told me that she's not retired yet, but she's getting there and she wants to learn. So we have we have a number of people who are interested in the material. So I'm hoping that as you watch this replay and you think of things that you want to ask, write them down, and then go to the Get Classy page. And if you haven't accepted the invitation yet, please do. And then you can get into Get Classy, and you can post your questions, okay, on the page. All right. So that's how we're going to communicate about the course going forward. All right. So next screen. Okay. So why does everybody need a team? One statistic that I shared with the class that a lot of people find surprising is that 10,000 people turn 65 every day in this country, and that's going to continue until it's going to go through 2039. That's a lot of people getting old, and we're living longer, older, and sicker. And getting sick in this country, you may have noticed, is extremely expensive. So you really want to be prepared for getting sick, number one, and you want to have people in your corner who can help to advocate for you and give you sound advice, so that when your health begins to fail, you will have those people already set to help you and to help care for you and to make sure that you get the care you want and deserve. Now, another reason we need a team is that we have the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, which was passed in 1996. That law was established because the idea behind it was to protect people's privacy and to make sure that they could take their insurance with them wherever they went. Well, here's something else that particular piece of legislation established. It keeps people from having people they want to advocate for them to advocate for them. For instance, did you know that if you're married and your spouse comes to the emergency room with your insurance card while you're sick, the doctor doesn't have to talk to your spouse unless that spouse has proof that you've given them authority to speak for you and to speak with them. That's an extremely important thing to understand, because just by virtue of the fact that you're married or in some kind of formal partnership, it doesn't mean that healthcare professionals will talk to you. Okay, this is an extremely important concept that you must understand. So you absolutely must look into getting the appropriate documentation and appointing advocates. All right, you want it to be your husband, your wife, totally fine. But make sure you put it in writing and have it done with an attorney, preferably. At the very bare minimum, sign it, witness it, get it notarized. Okay? But if you're working with an attorney who is a decent human being, they should be willing to do it for you for inexpensively, or as part of an estate plan that they do for you. You also need this document for any child in your life who's over the age of 18. As soon as somebody turns 18 in this country, they are considered liberated. That means that in order to be able to find out what's going on with them, when you talk to their doctor, you need to have a letter from them signed and witnessed and notarized saying that it's okay with them for that medical professional to talk to you. So bear that in mind. And just remember that everyone needs an advocate at some time in their life. It doesn't matter how old you are. There will come a time in your life when you're going to be too sick to be able to do anything or say anything for yourself. You're not going to be able to deal with claim forms. You're not going to be able to deal with running to the pharmacy to pick up your drugs. You're not going to be able to deal with a lot of the stuff that happens when we're sick. So, everyone, okay, and in particular, if you're over the age of 18, you need to think about who will advocate for you in the event that you get sick. Okay, that's extremely important. And if you can't think of anybody, if you don't have children around you, don't have somebody living nearby, there is nobody obvious, then let's have a conversation, because I can help you with that kind of stuff. Okay, and just know that there's no substitute for having the right professionals in your life who can help you to navigate more effectively. Okay, so next week, here's a session you absolutely will not want to miss, especially if you are on Medicare or approaching Medicare age. Most people do not know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, and they are two very different programs. So, seeing that Medicare's open enrollment period is about to open up on October 15th, this is exactly the right time to learn about this, particularly if you're on Medicare. And Medicare is a veritable alphabet soup of medical insurance: Part A, Part B, Part D. We'll cover all that stuff, and we'll learn about what's going to be available to you in 2018. Medicaid. A lot of people are under the misunderstanding that it's only for poor people, and here's a spoiler alert for you: it's not. There was a recent article in the New York Times by Rob Levin, and Ron Levin, sorry. He talked about a woman who had over $600,000 in assets, who had to go to a nursing home, and she had a son who was a financial advisor who had her do an estate plan. Guess what? It was done improperly. They wound up running through all of her money plus. So it's really important not just to have any old estate plan, but to have the right estate plan, and to be mindful of the actual regulations around the various different types of insurance that's out there, so that when your time comes, you'll know what to do and how to take care of it. And if you hear heavy breathing in the background, it's my little dog. Her name is Penny. She's adorable. Okay. So our speakers at session 2 will be Mark Spira, and he is He is a Medicare expert, and he's a Medicare broker. Know that Medicare brokers are worth their weight in gold if you get the right one, and they're free. Hello, doesn't cost you anything. So if you have questions about Medicare, stay tuned. You're going to learn a lot next week, but also know that you can talk to Mark, and he can help you to figure out what program works best in your situation, depending on what your needs are, what medications you're on, where you live most of the time, all that stuff. And he can help you to make that determination. He won't cost you a single thin dime, and he makes his money by getting commissions from the insurance companies who provide Medicare. So Don't miss that one. And my dear friend Antoinette Koshikar, our Medicaid expert, is going to explain to you how Medicaid works, the broad strokes. I mean, it's a really complex program, but she'll be able to tell you about Medicaid, particularly Medicaid in New Jersey. Okay, where she's quite expert, and she will be able to give you a really good overview of what you can expect if you are among the hundreds of thousands of people who need to have Medicaid in your life for long-term care expenses. Okay, session 3. This is going to be a fun one. Estate Planning 101. You're going to learn about how to protect yourself and what you have. Making your wishes known. This is extremely important. A lot of people don't understand this, but you really need to formalize what you would want to have happen in writing for the people who you appoint as your advocate, because you don't want them to have to guess. Guessing causes all kinds of aggravation and leaves them with a legacy of guilt. You don't want to do that to anybody. So you want to make sure that what you want for the later stages of your life are put on paper, and you want to make sure that you will be able to convey that information to the people who advocate for you. And you want to make sure you choose the right advocates, and know that if you choose the right one, you can change, okay? You want to make sure that you get all of your documentation done, and you want to know exactly what documentation needs to be done in your particular case. The more people who are involved, the more money is involved, the more complicated your estate will become. So, but for those of you who think, well, I don't have that much, and I really don't need an estate plan, I encourage you to watch this, because you would be surprised. It's really very, very important to have a will, to have all your documentation, and to do it the right way with the right professional guiding you. There are tax considerations involved in estate planning for you and for your heirs. So you want to be very careful about how stuff is distributed and how it's positioned in your estate. And this last item, passing on your values and valuables. I am a big advocate for what's called legacy stories, and I'm actually a concierge for legacy stories. Legacy stories is a wonderful tool that helps you to reminisce with a purpose. By utilizing their free smartphone app, you can take photos of things that mean something to you, and then record your voice talking about why it's important. Why is that important to you and future generations? This is a wonderful way of you being able to pass on something really important to future generations, your values and your voice. Okay, and I took a poll in the class, and just about everybody put their hand up. Just about everybody has a bunch of voicemail messages or an answering machine tape that they will not get rid of because it's got the last recording of a loved one's voice. Okay, don't let that be the last remnant of you that you leave behind to your loved ones. You want to do something more purposeful, and we can show you how to do that. So next week's presenters will be Stephen Tarda. He is an attorney specializing in estate planning and elder law, and me. So we will talk about all that stuff. So it should be a really good session. So don't miss it. Okay, session 4, getting organized. And a lot of people laughed when I talked about coping with stuff, because you get to be a certain age, and you've been a homeowner and you've been acquiring stuff for a long time. And, one of the things that we have difficulty with is parting with that stuff. A lot of times we'll tell ourselves, oh, I'll just leave it to my kids. Well, guess what? your kids probably don't want most of your stuff. And don't be offended. It's just, listen, things change, time changes, styles change, whatever. My mother refused to throw out my Easy Bake Oven, okay, and gave it to me when I was in my 40s. So, and it wasn't worth anything because she had cut the wire and put a rocker switch on it. Look, the things, there are things that have sentimental value, and then there are things that just are an anchor. So we're gonna take a look at that stuff. Papers. We're gonna look at what you should keep and what you should purge. Okay, a lot of us, out of paranoia, out of fear that we're gonna get audited, we just keep everything. So we're going to have our experts help you to figure out what you need to keep and what you can comfortably get rid of, and how to get rid of it. How to pull everything together. How to put everything where it's accessible, but not in your way. And we're also going to talk about tools you can use. And one tool that we advocate for at Grand Family Planning is the use of Footprint ID, which is a secure medical database that you can enter all of your medical information into. You can also stow your legal documents on their server. So if your loved one who is advocating for you needs to access your medical data and also needs to access proof that they have they've been given authority to speak for you, they can have access to all that on their smartphone. And we'll be looking at that in session 4. Our speakers for session 4 will be Miri Upton, who is a financial document organization specialist. She has a company called Mommies and Money, and she will be talking about how to organize your paperwork. Beth Toffel is the founder of Footprint ID. She will be talking about her sensational product, which helps you to organize your medical information and important documents. And Maria Elena Grant, who is a downsizing specialist. She has a company called Amazing Rooms, and she will be talking about how to separate yourself from that preponderance of stuff that is taking over too much room in your life. Okay, session 5, to move or not to move. As we get older, our needs change, and many of us have the attitude that hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to die in my house. Well, that's fine. If you plan for it, you probably can get away with it. And we actually have team members who can help you to achieve that goal. So we will talk about that. And we'll also talk about whether renovating your home makes sense, and what kinds of assistive technologies you might bring in, and how to recreate the best features of a facility environment in your own home so that you can continue to live there comfortably, safely, and with quality of life. We'll talk about the financial considerations and what you can do to finance the things that you want to have happen. And we'll also look at different options for living comfortably, including we'll talk about assisted living, continuing care communities, group homes, nursing homes, and all the other assistive tools out there that can help you to live a life of quality while you're as you age. So we will be talking about all of those topics in that session. And the session 5 speakers will include Eileen Rabizadeh, who she calls herself Aging Population Advocate, which is lovely. She is also known as the Dementia Whisperer. She really has a talent for calming down people who have dementia. She is terrific for assessing where you're living and what you need to do to make that environment more conducive to a happy, healthy life. So she is that person you want in your corner when you decided that you want to thrive in place. Liz Ciccone, who's a reverse mortgage specialist, she's going to provide us with some great information about reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are a very misunderstood product. Once upon a time, they were a less than ideal solution. They were abused. People were encouraged to take these loans out and then do silly things with the money. The climate right now is very different. It's a highly regulated field, and it's hard to get a reverse mortgage now. So, but by working with a reverse mortgage specialist who gets to know you and gets to understand you, the right mechanisms can be recommended, and the likelihood that you will get approved for this kind of special loan for people who are over the age of 62 might actually happen. So, so I hope you'll tune in for that. And Sibylla Frank, who is a realtor, and she will come in and she will talk about the things that people can do to get the best price for their home. The impact that renovating a house may have on its value, and things of that nature. So she'll be able to give us a more, a realistic perspective on what can help a house sell or prevent it from selling, and that may have an impact on the decisions that we make as far as where we live later on. Okay, session 6, Ask the Experts. This is where everybody comes back. And we'll do a Q&A, and we'll gather up all the questions that have not yet been answered, and we'll have a panel discussion, and time allowing, we'll enable one-on-one time. So here's where it's going to be really cool to be on this particular session live, if you can make it, because you'll be able to ask questions directly to the professionals in the room. Some of them will actually be remoting in, I suspect, and we will, but we will try to answer everyone's questions, and hopefully this will be well worth your time, because it will tie up the course in a neat bow and cover all the topics in a summarizing and comprehensive manner. So make sure that everybody gets full value from having attended the course. And that's it. So I want to thank everybody for enrolling, and I apologize for the fact that the first class in the course didn't happen the way I had hoped. You got this great technology, and it may or may not work. We don't know. You never do. So you're not going to know until you try it. But fortunately, we have options, and I've been having a great deal of success with Webinar Jam itself. Excuse me. It seems to work pretty well. It's been pretty reliable. The Facebook Live portion of it was running through Webinar Jam, but for some reason it has not been hitting the wall. I may have stopped the computer before it had a chance to populate. That would be on me, because it was still kind of circling around when I said to stop the meeting. So anyway, so I hope you got some value out of this, and I am so glad that you were able to view this video. And while I'm sorry you couldn't see the actual live presentation, at least you're getting to see this version. So I want to thank you for coming along with us on this bold experiment. We're going to offer this wonderful, free, unique content to the people who are coming around to this for the first round, and hopefully in the future things will get smoother. And I would love to hear back from everyone who takes the course as we go along. I would love to hear your impressions. What do you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What kinds of things can we provide for you in the future that would have value? So this is Tracy Lawrence for Grand Family Planning. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend, or a wonderful whatever interval it is after you watch this this presentation. Thanks again so much for your participation, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care. Bye-bye.